switch here. You do this one.
Yeah, after that one. Okay.
And then
Cool.
to it.
Uh-oh. Oh. Whoop.
Did it not work?
Uh-oh. There we go.
Oh yeah, thank God. And it's the like it's the everything.
Is Skylar gonna come do this this time?
Yeah, I mean I hope so.
Yeah.
So
I was sitting there.
Yeah. All right. Woo! Here we go. All right. That is exactly the type of energy we need today. So let's keep that up. So I'm going to just introduce today's speakers. I think they need no introduction, Salvador and Evan. But before we do that, I just want to say how awesome it is to work at a place like the Denver Museum of Nature and Science that supports the field work, that supports, when we bring these amazing fossils back to the museum, which you're going to hear about. We don't just send them behind the scenes to get prepared where only a few people can see them, but we have folks that, are able to blow 10-foot holes in the wall of Space Odyssey. Thank you, Kenneth. Thank you, Building Ops. That allows us to bring these big fossils in and then prep them on the floor of the museum so all of the guests of the museum can come and see them. And so not many places do that. I think we're the only one that I can think of that, again, supports the field work, which I think we need to be out there doing. We need to be out there collecting the fossils, bringing them home to the Denver Museum, and then preparing them on the floor. So you're going to hear a really awesome story, which we've been doing this over and over again. We did it with Snowmass. We've done it with Highlands Ranch, the Thornton Torosaurus, the T-Rex, and now you're just going to hear the next iteration of how we're able to go out in the field, find these cool fossils, create these incredibly amazing logistical challenges for ourselves because the jackets just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So you're going to hear that amazing story. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Salvador and Evan.
Thank you, Tyler.
Yeah, thanks for the surprise hype intro that you didn't know you were
Not
doing.
planned.
I'm Salvador.
And I'm Evan.
We're both fossil preparators here at the museum, so you've probably seen us in the window. Definitely Evan in the last few days in the window in Teen Rex cleaning up some fossils. We're going to tell you how those fossils got there.
We're really excited to talk to you about Triceratops dreams. So our story begins in the town of Marmarth, North Dakota. It is home to cultural institutions such as the Pastime Steakhouse, which features all-you-can-eat crab legs. And in case you're wondering, a few of our members did indeed partake in that activity.
Highly recommended.
Unfortunately, we have no photographic evidence at this time. There's also the Mystic Theater, which is home to not one, but 2 showings of our T-Rex movie, which I think is a pretty huge flex. Marmarth is also home to some amazing, humble, kind, hardworking people, probably some of the most hardworking people you'll ever find, including our very own Dr. Tyler Leeson. Something that also makes Marmarth very special is its geographic location and where it sits in the rocks. So it is situated smack dab in the middle of the Hell Creek Formation. And we also have some sort of rocks that are right after the extinction as well. So we're interested really in the things that are provided to us by the Hell Creek. As you can see here, really beautiful badlands that we get to traverse in the summers. The Hell Creek is home to some pretty amazing finds, such as dinosaurs with skin, impressions, and really goofy-looking theropods like this Anzu that you've probably seen in the T-Rex movie as well. And it's also home to our very own Teen Rex. If you haven't gone to see it in its new little display in the exhibit, I highly recommend it. It looks absolutely stunning in its new home. This is what the area looked like in the Hell Creek time. So it's 75 million years ago, 65. The Triceratops about 67. And so it is a bit different than what Marmarth looks like today. You think of Marmarth, very dry, but at that time it was more lots of bodies of water, warmer, a bit wetter, which is also why you see that pollen frond with teen rex. You obviously don't think of North Dakota and pollen fronds today, but back in the day that would have been something that's around. So this rock formation hosts the very last dinosaurs that ever walked the earth right before the extinction of all non-avian dinosaurs, an event universally known as the single worst day for multicellular life on Earth. When we go out to the Hell Creek, Triceratops is incredibly common. There is Tyler laying down next to Triceratops, our crew next to Triceratops, Salvador and Brooke probably walking past Triceratops on the ground, Triceratops horn, another Triceratops. You get it. Triceratops is pretty much everywhere in the Hell Creek formation.
So you're probably wondering, if Triceratops is so common, why the heck did you bring back another one? So typically, when you find a Triceratops, the skeleton laid out on the surface of the ground for a while before it was buried and fossilized. So the different parts of the skeleton and the skull are broken apart and scrambled together, sometimes chewed on by scavengers, eroded away. But a couple summers ago, we went looking for fossils and found a Triceratops that was a little bit different, something special. And so in the last few years, we've started getting permits from the Forest Service, who've been amazing partners. Marmarth is situated, as you can see here, right in the middle of Little Missouri National Grasslands, home to tons and tons of fantastic Hell Creek and Fort Union rock exposure. So we started prospecting on this land that we didn't formally have access to in the past. So we applied and got permits from our friends at the Forest Service, and in 2024 we went out looking for fossils, just 5 minutes north of where Tyler grew up. What we found was, you see this little bleached bit of bone on the left side of this image? That's all that was sticking out of the ground, was just this tiny bit of bleached bone. And usually when you find these broken apart Triceratops bones, everything is lying flat on the ground when it was buried. So the fact that it was sticking vertically out of the rock made us think, this is a little odd. So our intern that year, 2024, Casey Thader, was walking around and he saw this tiny bit of bone poking out of a rivulet. He called Tyler over and they started digging in on it. The kicker to this story is that morning before we'd gone out prospecting, Tyler gathered the whole group around and said, "No Triceratops. I'm sick of Triceratops. Don't find any of those. Don't call me." But Casey said, "This is a little odd." And so he and Tyler started digging in on it. And over the next hour or two, they got from the edge of what turned out to be the frill poking out of the ground all the way up to the tip of the left brow horn here. Just a ginormous, beautiful Triceratops horn all attached. And they thought, holy smokes, this is not your run-of-the-mill Triceratops. Frill and horn are attached. We have to see what else is there. So I wish I had a photo of him, but Tyler's ginormous bodybuilder friend was there, and he helped us tear down the hill next to this with a pickaxe. And by the end of the day, we had exposed all the way from that tip of the frill that Casey found to the front of the face. So you can see the snout right here in the ground. And at this point, we thought, oh man, we've got a permit for surface collect. We need to stop digging. And so we took a photo with the whole crew at the end of the day. And there's Casey, discoverer of the Triceratops, looking quite smug, as he should, for finding such an amazing fossil, with the skull completely intact. And so we knew that Smokey the Bear at the Forest Service would not let us collect this fossil this year, as much as we all wanted to go super fast and rip this perfect skull out of the ground and bring it back. And so we applied for an excavation permit to come back in 2025. We put a little bit of plaster on the frill to protect it through the harsh North Dakota winters, and Natalie wrote, "If you read this, it means our Triceratops dreams came true," before we put a tarp over the specimen and buried it back in to overwinter, giving birth to the name Triceratops Dreams. So we took off for the field, and you can see the rain's already on its way, melting down the dirt that we had put over the specimen, getting it ready to weather minus 40 degrees and howling winds in the winter in North Dakota. We came back this summer, permit in hand, thank you Forest Service, and got to work digging a giant pit around the Triceratops, getting ready to collect what we knew was a beautiful, perfect skull, the best Triceratops skull that the Denver Museum of Nature and Science has ever collected. However, on day 2 or 3 of trenching around this skull, thinking it would be kind of an easy collect, we'd pull it down the hill and flop it in the back of a truck, there was a surprise. We hit not 1, but 2 bones in the trench around the Triceratops skull, a vertebrae on the left side here, and a rib on the right side here, highlighted with fresh glue. And we thought, oh no, this project is getting a little bit bigger than we thought. This isn't just a skull. So we had to go talk to our friend Smokey the Bear at the Forest Service again, and they said, go for it, dig a giant hole. So we brought out the Brute, the big old jackhammer, and got to work watching Natalie dig a giant hole around this Triceratops to see what other bones were there. Just kidding, it was a huge group effort. Tons and tons of people were out there working super hard, moving dirt down the hill to expose the rest of the Triceratops bones. So over the next few days, we dug this really, really big pit around the Triceratops as the project grew and grew. And we eventually found all of these bones right next to and behind the skull. So you can kind of see where that bit of, where the horn that we exposed on the first day is and where that frill is. But that's the skull right there, complete from the tip of the beak to the back of the frill. And we found one beautiful lower jaw. Maybe if we go back, you can see where that lower jaw is. There's another jaw in between the two that's a little bit too cryptic to see in this photo. And there's also a neck stretched along here, a complete neck, all these vertebrae in a row of this Triceratops, and 2 ribs poking out this way. And since then, Evan will tell you about all the other ribs she's found. And so we spent a day trying to make this ginormous block smaller so that we could go with our original plan of flipping this into the back of a truck. Trying to do surgery, crawling all over in between these bones. And we just kept hitting bone after bone. We could not get this thing any smaller. We knew we had to just bring back one massive block. So we covered the whole top in paper towel and then added a bunch of mud to protect it. We put plaster and burlap all around it. I shaved a weird mustache and did some monkey noises. And we put this big wooden frame on the block to support the Triceratops and keep this jacket strong and keep the fossils intact. So we wrapped probably 8 to 12 layers of plaster over this, dug way underneath it, used this awesome power tool, the Bosch hammer, to help us dig underneath it. There's our 2024 intern Mario, came out to do field work with us again this year. And we even dug a tunnel all the way underneath. It was really satisfying to have the railroad bar break through that tunnel. We wrapped plaster underneath, and here's our volunteer, Peggy, after a full day of being underneath the jacket, plaster falling on her face, really putting it all on the line for this fossil. But of course, look at this thing compared to Peggy. You can't flip this in the back of a truck anymore. So back to Smokey the Bear, back to the Forest Service. And again, they helped us out. They were super accommodating, and they said, go ahead and bring out the biggest piece of machinery in the 4-county area. So Tyler's brother Derek has all sorts of fantastic connections, lives in Marmouth and has all sorts of fantastic connections there. And some folks that he worked with who are fantastic machine operators brought out this ginormous front loader. Here are the 2 machine operators with Tyler and his brother Derek on the right. And here are the most rapid 2 minutes and 20 seconds flipping this block over of our 2025. We had the straps wrapped all around it. Fortunately, our postdoc, Jake, is a sailor, and he knows lots of really good knots that we could use to tie this on. You can see us all pacing around in the background. No monkey noises now. That one got me.
You want a catcher strap?
No catcher strap. Sorry, Tyler. Hooray, a successful flip. This was especially nerve-wracking because this block was larger than most of us had ever collected. And it's hard to know if the dozen layers of plaster you've put on big blocks in the past are going to be strong enough for this one. So after they flipped it over, we moved it around a little bit to get ready to try to carry it out. And the first thing they did was try to put it on some railroad ties. So picked it up and tucked some railroad ties underneath it, which promptly snapped in half. So Tyler and Derek went back to town to get some steel I-beams to support this fossil on. And the rest of us got to work trimming rock out of the bottom of the jacket. We took a few thousand pounds out. You can see how much skinnier it is there. Got it on its steel I-beams and strapped it on for its journey out of the field. Truly expert machine operating from these folks. When we got it back, the front loader does have a scale on it, and they measured it. We were all guessing 6,000 pounds, 8,000 pounds. And of course, the machine operator said, I think it's about 11,000 pounds, and he was right. So we had a new set of logistical issues because we had this massive block now. We hadn't even been thinking about what to do with it after we got out of the field. We were just thinking, how do we get this thing back to the truck? And and then was the next set of issues. So Derek helped us weld the steel I-beams together. Thank you, Derek. Shouts out. So that this wouldn't slide around on its drive back to Denver. And we drove it safely back to Denver, where Evan will tell you about our next steps.
Yes, so like Salvador said, getting it out of the field, one set of logistics, bringing it into civilization, into our building, a whole nother set of logistics. So our job was not anywhere near done, even though we did get it successfully into Denver. So you can see Max, shouts out to Building Ops. They were a huge help while we navigated the incredible logistics of managing this jacket. Yeah, give it up for Building Ops. They were amazing. So we actually had to rent a bigger forklift. Our forklift simply could not handle all the weight of this monstrous jacket. So here's Max driving it to the south dock as we try to figure out the next steps. This is a really cool photo of Corey welding on these huge heavy-duty wheels. These each hold 4,000 pounds, so just enough to support our jacket. So once we got it welded safely, our next step was figuring out how to actually get it into the building. And this is a really cool photo also taken by Avery of the team basically just taking off tons of rock so that we could figure out where we could afford to shave off a few inches. We were looking for anything to just get it into the building. So this is just a really fun photo of that day. We were grabbing anybody who walked by, having them help us out, dig in the dirt a little bit, just get that experience of playing around like in a big sandbox. After some digging and trimming, we did manage to get it inside the building. A common thread you'll see is we kind of move one step at a time, and then we deal with the next set of issues. So now it's in the building, and what do we do with it now? It's in the building. And so we had the idea, what about the Teen Rex Lab? So once we decided that the Teen Rex Lab would be a really cool option so that people could see this beautiful specimen being prepared in real time, sharing this awesome fossil with the community, it was time to get to work to also shave off a few more inches. At the size it was at, it wouldn't fit into that big hallway. If you guys remember, the hallway was closed for a bit. That was because we needed to get this in there. So that is where lab tools come in. So we had to shave off another 8 to 10 inches. And this jaw was the perfect candidate for that. So I got to work prepping it out. You can see removing all the dirt, getting it to the point where we can pull it out. But I did stumble across a fun surprise while working on this fossil. That blue arrow is pointing to a little broken off T-Rex tooth that I found perfectly placed on top of the Triceratops jaw, which was just a really fun highlight while working on this beautiful jaw. So there it is, jacketed, and you can see this really cool idea that Salvador had was to drill a hole into the main jacket, and then we threaded the ratchet strap through it so it was really secure, clenched in its little plaster sandwich, basically, so that we could safely remove it from the jacket and get that nice, smaller jacket that we're looking for. Here is a photo of all of us working together. So Salvador's down in there, sawing upside down, kind of flying blind as we're all holding onto the jaw, trying not to drop it on Salvador's head or just drop it in general, keeping all of our fingers intact as we worked on getting this out, mostly intact. And there it is. This is, I prepped it before we moved the giant jacket. It measures 39 inches, so it's pretty big. Something I'd love to point out about this jaw is that it is complete. So we have all the way from the beak all the way to the back of the jaw. Thank you, Salvador. Which is not the most common thing that you see, the whole thing articulated. Fossils tend to become disarticulated during the process of fossilization. It can be kind of right conditions have to be perfect for it to just stay this way. So it's a really awesome specimen, and I think it bodes well for the preservation of our skull as we kind of uncover little bits of it. I also just want to show off the beautiful teeth. That is also not very common for it to have all of these teeth, and I think something that's also awesome is that you see some of them are kind of stacked up on top of each other, and that is because they have sort of a conveyor belt replacement structure. So here you can see that they erupt and then they go up into the jaw. And so some of the the teeth and the dental battery of the Triceratops are in the process of being replaced, which I think is really cool that that got frozen in time and we get to look at that now. And so now that I took the jaw out, it was ready. It was way smaller, way lighter than it used to be. You can see here. It was time to move it into the Teen Rex Lab, which we did have to blow a giant hole in the wall to get it in there. And Greg made this amazing video the morning that we moved it into its final home.
Thank you to Building Ops
Again.
and Vertex and all the folks who helped this move happen. Lots had to go into this.
The tightest squeeze. So we had to like half an inch of clearance on either side. High fives all around. Yeah, give it up.
Thank you, Greg, for making that amazing video,
Yeah, it's
this
so
time with background music.
It's so incredible. Here is a group shot of all of us just celebrating because it was a pretty stressful, just logistical challenge. We knew it would go well, but you never know. I know I did not sleep the night before, just thinking about it. And you can see Teen Rex in the background, which honestly, by comparison, now looks so tiny. It's not that tiny, but it just looks so tiny compared to this monster that we brought. And this is just a great photo of a little Triceratops skull, what we hope ours is going to look like once we're done prepping, on top of what we think is the horn of the Triceratops in the jacket. This little diagram is just meant to show you guys what we think we have so far. So, of course, skull, the neck. We actually think now we have more of those dorsal vertebrae, so going back probably all the way to where the ribs are at. Hopefully, as the prep continues, we'll be able to fill in more bones, so stay tuned for that. Make sure to come visit. So something that's really awesome about having a skull is that we are able to identify exactly which species of Triceratops we have. So there are two species. There's Triceratops hortus, which occurs in the lower section of the formation, and Triceratops prorsus, which is higher up. We are working under the assumption that ours is prorsus because it is higher up. It was really close to the KT boundary, so that is our assumption. I guess we won't really know until we fully uncover the horns and the nasal horn. So that is something that is pretty interesting about the skulls. Another cool thing is that Triceratops skulls change throughout their life. So when they're young, they kind of curve up and back, and as they get older, they straighten out a little bit more. We know that ours is an adult, but it's still pretty cool to see how the skulls change over time. It'll be a cool entry into the data set of Triceratops skulls. Another thing we're keeping an eye out for as we prep is pathology. This is pictures of wounds on a Triceratops skull that are interpreted as battle marks in battle with another horned dinosaur. So that's something really cool that we could potentially find on our skull. So it's something that we are keeping an eye out for. Another really exciting thing that we're keeping an eye out for is the possibility of soft tissue preservation, so maybe skin. This is a photo of a specimen that was collected North Dakota, Perilous Point, and here you can see it goes from the skull all the way to the tail, and it's got this beautiful giant block of these amazing scales. They are pretty big, and they're beautiful hexagonal scales, so we're also kind of keeping an eye out for that on our Triceratops, so stay tuned for that. We haven't found any yet, but we are keeping our fingers crossed, so stay tuned.
And so come see Evan in the Teen Rex, now Triceratops lab, working away, hunting for skin and soft tissue and other bones on this amazing complete skull and neck and ribs and jaws. This beautiful, beautiful, best Triceratops specimen at the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. Here's a photo I took right at the end before we left. There's one rib going into the back wall still in North Dakota in the trench. So we'll be back to investigate, and who knows what else is behind this rib. It might just be a rib. There's only one way to find out. So we'll be back to see next year in 2026. Thank you, everybody who helped us out with this. Truly a huge team effort, so many different parts of the museum. From marketing, making this a big news splash, to building ops, helping us with all of the logistical things. There's so many different facets of the museum who've helped out, as well as the big teams of, here's our 4th of July Day parade, so many awesome volunteers and interns in the field, volunteers here at the museum. Thank you, everybody, for making this possible. And, of course, all of our funders and government partners.
Thank you. Are there any questions? We do have the cube, and I think Paula's coming over to toss the cube around. I don't want to throw it, I'm scared.
Hi, am I correct that the bulge on the bottom of the jacket, as it sits now, is the skull? And if so, all the bones that you'll find above that would have to be removed, right, in order to get access to the skull?
Yeah, that's correct. So it is upside down, so that is the frill that you're seeing. So that's what was sticking out of the ground when it was found. So yes, it is currently like upside down, right side up. Yeah, exactly. There's the big shark fin. So in terms of removing things, we are going to have to remove things, but as we prep, I think our plan will get a little more, we'll have a better idea of what our game plan is as we prep. We're not entirely sure yet, I think.
And one more question. As a presenter, is there anything that, any fun facts that I could tell our museum visitors that I might not see looking at the preparation that's going on?
I'll have to get back to you on that. I'll think of some. I promise. I'll get you some fun facts.
I think the story of how it came out of the field and how massive this block is. It's the second biggest block that I know of that the museum has ever brought back full of dinosaurs. It's just a monster.
I was there yesterday when there was some people working on it, and I could see two things that looked like pipes sticking out. It would be nice if when there are volunteers that are there talking to people, if the people that are doing preparation can come and talk to us to let us know what those things are.
Yeah, totally. That sounds great. Those
So-
are ribs.
They're ribs, okay.
Thank you.
Have you got any story on the T-Rex tooth that you found yet?
No story yet. We actually have 3 now that we've found. So we are coming up with a story. We'll spin it, but yeah, not sure. It's not the most uncommon thing to find broken T-Rex teeth when we're prospecting. So it could just be that it's just part of the ecosystem. It could be that it was scavenging. I think time will tell as we continue the preparation on the skull and the other materials.
Just like crocodiles, T-Rex teeth broke off all the time. So not super uncommon.
Just out of curiosity, how much did that jaw weigh?
Dang it. I measured it because last time someone asked for the measurement, I didn't think to weigh it. How much does it weigh? Maybe like 3.
100 pounds?
Yeah, sure. Sure.
Less now
Let's go
that
with
it's
that.
clean.
That's
Very
true.
impressive.
She's lost a lot of weight.
Which was more nerve-wracking, the helicopter lift of Teen Rex or the flip with the front end loader on this one?
I have an opinion.
Oh man, how do you compare? I was at this dig every single day of the dig this summer, just about. And I was only on Teen Rex for about a week, so this one was more stressful for me, especially since we set up the straps instead of the helicopter techs hooking it to the helicopter.
Other questions? Oh. You ready?
Just curious, why is this one so almost uniquely well preserved?
Okay, I guess I'll take this one. So I think part of it is because, like Salvador said, normally when we find fossils, they're just flat out in nature and they've just been weathered by the elements. This one was still sitting in the ground. It was still pretty much covered up almost entirely, right? Casey only saw the tiniest sliver of bone sticking out. Most of it was still preserved in the rock. It also looks like, looking at the sediments that it's in, a very rapid burial. So maybe just like fast moving water. It got covered, so there was no opportunity for scavengers to get at it, to millions and millions of years of just the elements beating it down. So I think it's a combination of just the perfect factors, basically.
Hi there. Is there anything about this discovery that changes what we know about the Hell Creek Formation?
I think that will be determined as we prep. It's hard to say no, and it's hard to say yes. I think as we kind of go along prepping, things might pop up that, might change our understanding.
Yeah, I would say it's more likely to change our understanding of Triceratops and how Triceratops lived than the Hell Creek Formation as a whole, because it's at an interval where there's Triceratops preserved above it, younger in time, and below it, older in time. So it's where you would expect to find a Triceratops, but because it was buried so quickly, like Evan was saying, and it's so complete, there might be unique things to learn about Triceratops.
You mentioned you were hopeful to find like skin or some scales like that. Is there any particular instance that like there's a reason to look for that in this large of a specimen? And secondly, this is for marketing. When are we going to do champagne wishes and Triceratops dreams as the push? Just saying. Robin Leach, I can do it.
So the skin, for one, Tyler promised that there would be skin there. But in all seriousness, so we are going a bit on the, I think, previous, like the precedent that has been set. Skin was preserved in the ironstone type rock that we'll find, and this is covered in ironstone, so we're hopeful that it might preserve it. Tyler has found like Dakota had skin, and that Perilous Point Triceratops that also had that skin. So we have the right rocks and probably the right conditions, so we are keeping our fingers crossed. We're also thinking that if that rib turns into a body in the hill, I think it's more likely that there would be skin on a bigger surface, like a body, maybe a bit thicker, versus the skin on the head might be a bit more delicate and smaller, might not have been preserved. Does that answer your question?
Other questions?
What do you do with all the dirt that comes off the fossil?
Well, when we were in North Dakota, all the dirt that came off the fossil, we threw down the hill.
We just throw it in the dumpster now,
Okay.
not off the hill.
We do save some of it because it's really great to backfill areas to support certain locations if your prep plan changes. But otherwise, yeah, it's just dirt.
Okay.
How long do you expect the prep process to take for a specimen like this?
We're estimating about a year. Seems like a pretty healthy estimate.
Other question? I'll go back.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. I'm just wondering, when you're like prospecting, looking for fossils and starting to collect things, does it usually start with the skull? Or just like thinking about the sequence that this one is unfolding in?
Man, I wish. We probably find 200 loose Triceratops limbs for every skull you find.
Okay.
And that's maybe a made up number, but there's a lot of other bones in the body, right? You're more likely to find those poking out of the ground. And more often than not, they're isolated bones, not associated with other bones, connected to other bones, part of a skeleton.
So like when you find a skull, it kind of, that's incentive to like maybe stick around that spot and find the rest of the body.
Totally. When you find a skull, that's always a really, really good day.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Other questions?
Yeah, thanks for all the organizational work and getting this thing pulled together too. It was a huge task. Any other superlatives that you have on this fossil? Biggest, strongest, handsomest, you know.
Most perfect, complete, right? Most complete that we've ever found. We could probably go on and on.
Yeah, most complete in terms of the head. Every single bone's there.
I'd just like to make a comment. For the first time now, the public can see large jackets being prepared. This is outstanding. That you've created a place where large jackets can be prepared and the public can see it. Otherwise, we do it all behind the scenes.
Shouts out Bob. Shouts out DM&S.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, UNS.
Did the heavy equipment contractor donate the use of that massive front-end loader?
Not this time, no.
Other questions?
Yeah.
So you guys want to go back again next year and dig out what you saw. How are you keeping the site secured and unknown so that you don't get other people just walking in there?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a little bit of plaster over that bone protecting it, and the site is kind of tucked away in a little canyon, and it's on public land, so it is illegal to collect vertebrate fossils unless you're working for a federal repository like the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. But right now there's a little plaster covering it, and also it's a ton of work to go get any more of those fossils out of there.
Any other questions? Let's thank for a great talk.